Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Embracing Change. I'm your host, Nick, and to my first time viewers, I hope you love it here. So, it's been a minute. It's been a minute, and I missed you guys. I missed sitting here talking and sharing my thoughts and embracing change together. So, yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to be in front of the camera again. It's good to be talking, and yeah, let's get into this episode. So, anxiety. We're all familiar with it and we've all had our own experiences with it. Whether it's nerves before a big presentation, or butterflies in your stomach when you're looking forward to something, or that impending sense of doom after the we need to talk text, we've all been there. We know how it feels, and we're all familiar with what anxiety does to us. And today, I just want to get into that. I want to talk about anxiety. So, let's get into it. Personally, I never struggled much with anxiety when I was younger, but as I grow older and I'm faced with a lot of uncertainties in life, anxiety tends to visit me more often. And I have to say, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan at all of the feeling of being anxious, of how you can feel it in your body, in your stomach, of how it affects a lot, like your mood is affected, your appetite is affected, of how like it can just of how it's such a terrible mental state to be in. And I know as much as I struggle with it, we all do, as I said earlier, it's something that everybody can relate to in one way or another, from one form or another. And it's quite unfortunate that we have to deal with this feeling as human beings. But it's part of the human experience. So, what more can we do about it besides learn how to cope and how to deal with it and how to not let it dictate how we feel and to dictate how we handle situations. I think I really started experiencing being anxious around my late teens. It was a very, very hectic part of my life, a very difficult part of my life, and I was dealing with so much at the time. A lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of what is going to happen. I didn't know how my life was going to look in the next 6 months. There was a lot I had to figure out as well, but with that came anxiety, I remember there were days when I would just wake up and I would feel like I'm sick, not even sick to the sense of I need medical attention, but my body would just not feel normal. My heart rate would be accelerated and I would just feel so out of it, I would just feel so worried, so stressed. And that was me experiencing anxiety about my future. We've all actually had that experience with anxiety during that period of our life when you're transitioning from being a teenager to being an adult and everybody's telling you that, oh, you know what, you need to have a plan for your life. You need to have some sort of idea of how you want it to look. And that's easy said and done. Having a plan is not the difficult part. The difficult part is bringing the plan to life. And I feel like as you grow older and you realize that having a plan is not the difficult part. The difficult part is implementing it. And during that phase when you're finishing high school, you have to know what you want to do after high school. And I feel like a lot of us know, or even if we don't know, we have an idea of what we can fall back onto, like there's an idea of the landscape and how we would like things to look. What I realize is life will rock you. Life will really rock you, and a lot of us struggled with that anxiety because the plans we made were not really happening in the way we made them. For a lot of people, the struggle was university. The struggle was, what am I going to do for my studies? Who's going to fund me? What am I going to study? What am I going to do for the rest of my life, basically? Because when you're transitioning from a child to an adult, that's basically where your life actually starts. Those years where you're 18, 19, 20, there's a lot you need to figure out because this is where you lay the foundation of how your life is going to look. And I feel like there was a lot of pressure as well I wouldn't say from my family, but in life in general, there is a lot of pressure around that age for you to have a plan, for you to have an idea of this is who I'm going to be, and this is how I'm going to go about it, you know. So that's when I really can say I started experiencing anxiety, and it affected me a lot because Nick, as you know her from the people that watch the videos, or for the people that actually know me in real life, I wasn't really my full self, you know. I feel like right now, as I'm stepping into, or as I've dealt and understood why I was anxious about these things, and I've been able to really look into myself and really deal with them, I feel like it's been easier to really be myself because I'm not constantly worried about A, B, C, D. I'm not constantly worried about, oh, 6 months from now, or 1 year from now, oh, am I going to not make it in life, you know? Because I feel like as much as that is a valid worry to have as an individual, it doesn't do much for you to just sit there and worry about it, you know? So how I dealt with that was, firstly, I was suffering in silence. I'm the type of person that if I'm going through something, or I'm feeling something intense or something heavy, I will literally shut down internally and deal with it myself. And the people around me won't really know what's going on, but maybe they'll notice some distance. So for a long time, I went on maybe some months dealing with this anxiety by myself. And dealing is a loose word for it because I wasn't dealing with anything. I was just figuring it out. So what I had to do was I had to open up. That was the first step for me. Like, yeah, what really, really helped me during that period was opening up and realizing that a lot of us are actually going through the same things, and you don't actually have to carry these things alone, you know. I remember there was a moment where I just sat down and I was like, okay, let me talk to my mother about this, you know, let me talk to my parents about this. And it really helped me because um, sometimes when you talk to someone older, when you talk to someone who has been around for a little bit longer than you have, it helps you gain perspective because a lot of times around this age, you know, like, because I'm turning 21 this year, and 21 is usually like a big landmark year, and there's a lot of pressure to have everything figured out, there's a lot of pressure to know things, and when you look at your peers and what they're doing as well, you're like, oh damn, like, what, what's the plan? What am I supposed to do, you know? And it's easy to feel like, okay, I'm old and young at the same time. Like, I've had life experience, right? So I kind of feel like, okay, whatever's going on, I can deal with it, I can handle it. But at the same time, 21 is pretty young in the grand scheme of things. So I think sitting and talking to someone who's been alive, who's been around for longer, who has experience in a lot of things, who has experience in things that you don't even know are still yet to come in your life, is sometimes very, very important for you to gain perspective, you know? So that really helped me deal with being anxious. The fact that I could sit and talk to people that I trusted, people that have been there before, people that have the best intentions for me, and I could tell them how I felt, and I could open up about it, and I could just share a piece of what's going on in my mind. It really, really helped me because I felt less alone, and I felt more seen, and I felt like there was an understanding and I would get through this, you know. And I think another thing that helped was also talking to my friends, you know. Even now, a lot of situations that I go through, I don't really have a big circle of friends. I don't. But the ones that I do, I really hold them dear because it's very important to have a community of people that you trust and people that you can always look to for guidance, or just people that you can just share your thoughts with, share your mind with, and they will just listen. And that really helps, you know, that really helps. And I feel like with this therapy wave or this mental health wave that is happening in the world right now, the issue of anxiety is discussed a lot. You know, like you see a lot of posts on social media about social anxiety. On TikTok, when you open it, you see a lot of posts about people talking about the anxiety. When you open Instagram, when you open YouTube, you see a lot of videos the people addressing the concept of anxiety and how it's affected them and how they've dealt with it and how the power is within you and you have it all, and you know what, anxiety is normal and we all have it, and it's our daily bread and it's always going to be there. But they also don't teach us how to deal with it. And I feel like that in itself can put us in a state of being anxious. I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I see a lot of posts about something that is meant to be relatable, right? Something that is relatable. When I see a lot of posts about something that is relatable and how they're preaching about how, oh, the power is within you, you can do whatever you need to do, which is all good and well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those posts or anything, but I feel like sometimes it can feel a bit overwhelming to always have that information or that knowledge thrust upon you, you know. I think sometimes we spend too much time as a society dealing with the negative, like exposing each other to the negative, because the narrative that is usually preached in these videos is we are all susceptible to anxiety. Anxiety is always there. Anxiety is going to stop you from doing your things because it's there, you know. But then why are we always thinking from that perspective of being negative? I've prefaced this video, I've prefaced what I'm going to say by already acknowledging the fact that we've all had experiences with anxiety. But I think another thing that actually makes it a bit worse is the fact that we spend so much time thinking about being anxious. You know, we spend so much time in the anxious instead of like, I read a book some years ago. I don't remember the author, but a line from the book was something like, when you have negative thoughts, when a negative thought comes into your mind, right? If you just let it sit there, the only thing that will happen is it will grow, you know, it will get worse and it will become more and more negative, and it will become this whole web of negativity in your mind. And I bring this up to say that when it comes to anxiety, right, it usually is a liar. It usually makes you think about the worst case scenario. Okay, what if this doesn't work out? Okay, what if people feel this way about me after this? Okay, what will people have to say? Oh, okay, what if I fail? Okay, what if I am making a fool out of myself by doing this? And it's okay to be cautious as a person. It's okay to have those moments where you check yourself, you know, like, okay, am I sure about what I'm doing? But if you spend so much time thinking about what could go wrong, don't you think that the next logical thing to happen is for something to go wrong? Um, for me, I spent so many months having to deal with this mentality of negativity, of anxiety, of being anxious, where I would just sit in my thoughts and just let the thoughts grow, let the thoughts linger, and it would do nothing for me but make me miserable. So I had to condition myself to actually believe in myself so much so that it would seem like I'm being overly confident or overly cocky, which is not the case, you know. I feel the only way to actually deal with the spirit of anxiety or to deal with those anxious thoughts or those self-doubt moments or anything like that is to really, really have that confidence in who you are as an individual, so much so that you know that whatever is being told to me that is against the narrative that I've decided to, that is against what I know about myself or what I've actually developed about myself, you know, then it is incorrect. Then it doesn't really have to be my reality, because I know my reality. I know who I am. I know. Because another thing I feel that actually also causes a lot of anxiety, especially when it comes to how you're perceived, is the when you're someone who takes compliments or takes validation to heart, and you make that the deciding factor of your character. And by this I mean, being validated or being complimented is nice. It's nice for all of us. We all want that. We all want people to say nice things about us. We all want people to think nice things about us. We all want people to have good reports about us as individuals. We want to hear nice things about ourselves, and it's always nice to do that. It's always nice when that happens. But when you start to rely on other people's opinions for you to feel good about yourself, when they stop giving you good feedback or when they stop giving you good opinions, because people can change, people can decide something today and have a different opinion about it tomorrow, you know. So if that happens, and suddenly now the good things that they had to say are not being said like that, it's going to affect your confidence in yourself, and it's going to affect how you see yourself. And I think that's incorrect. When it comes to receiving compliments, when it comes to receiving positive feedback, take it as it is. It's positive feedback, but it doesn't have to be the foundation where you lay your identity on. It doesn't have to be the absence of those compliments, the absence of those positive affirmations from other people don't have to say anything about you, you know. The same way that if they don't have anything nice to say, it doesn't have to say anything about your character. So knowing yourself is very important in that sense, because when it comes to the outside noise, you can be able to filter out what is worth your attention, what is worth your energy, and what isn't, you know. So I feel like that is a very important thing to keep in mind. But recently, though, I can say I've been experiencing a different type of anxiety that I never really had an experience with until recently. So I've been really trying to put myself out there in terms of content, in terms of like fashion, and there's just a lot of things I want to do in general in my 20s, you know. And that's what I've been trying to do recently. I've been really trying to put myself out there, really trying to do the work, you know, and meet people and socialize and go in public and have shoots and all of that. And that's been making me really anxious. I don't know if this really fits the description of social anxiety, but it's some sort of anxiety, and I really hate how uncomfortable it makes me feel. I think a lot of creatives as well can relate to the feeling of when you have to shoot in public and there are people there just opening eyes and just looking at you. And some will have something to say, something that you don't really know how to respond to. You know, like there's always going to be an opinion that sometimes you don't know how to deal with, or you don't want to deal with at all, because I'm that type of individual. I grew up in one area for most of my life. I may have moved around like different houses or whatever, but it was one specific area. Yeah, well, so that means from my primary school days and everything, I know people that live here. You know, I'm familiar with them. But I'm not the type of person who just likes to go out and have conversations with random people. I'm not that type of person. So usually when I'm walking about or when I'm going somewhere or even when I'm chilling outside at the park, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to have those conversations. So imagine someone with that personality type. Now I have to go out and I have to shoot content in public and I have to have people talk to me. People want to make conversation. And it's very uncomfortable. It makes me very anxious to the point where sometimes I even consider not even going. Like I even consider not even shooting, not even doing the things I need to do. And that is only a setback. That's only something that's going to hold me back. So I've been learning to so lately I've been trying to learn how to deal with that feeling and not to allow that feeling of uncomfortability and not to allow that uncomfortable feeling to stop me from doing the things that I feel like I need to do, you know, the things that I actually want to do and things that are going to be helpful for me. And I don't know, I just wanted to share. I just wanted to share my thoughts on anxiety, and I wanted to share how I feel about it and how I